Hello, thank you. This is Cephas Kafui, and we are talking about purpose today. Purpose. I'm sorry the volume was not working. We'll be talking about purpose today. Spend some time and share this with someone. I'll be with you for only 30 minutes today. Only 30 minutes today. I'm going to go straight to the point and I'm going to help you to find out what your purpose is. I'm going to take you through an exercise. So if you have a pen and a paper, get ready for this and write some of these things down because this is how you are going to find what your purpose is. I'm going to lay the groundwork for it. So just get a pen and a paper and get ready because by the time you are done today, you'll be closer to finding out what your purpose is today. So spend some time, share this with someone. Let someone be part of this. Let someone join us. Let someone join us. Let somebody be part of this. Just share this with a friend. Share this with anyone. Let somebody join us right now. Let somebody join us right now. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us today. Just spend some time and share it with someone. Share this with someone. I don't have long to speak today. I'm going to speak for only 30 minutes today. So I just want you to bear with me. Tomorrow, I'll come back tomorrow in the evening at 9 p.m. and I'll continue tomorrow. But I'm going to do an exercise with you today as to how to find out what your purpose is. As to how to find out what your purpose is. So get a pen and a paper and get ready with me. Get a pen and paper and get ready for us to do this together. Get a pen and paper, get ready. Let's do this together. Invite someone, share it on YouTube, share it on WhatsApp, share it everywhere that you can share it. Invite someone to be part of this. Invite someone to be part of this. Invite someone to be part of this. I'll be starting in the next 5 minutes. I'll be starting in the next 5 minutes because I just want to wait for a couple of people to join us. I'm not speaking for long today. I'll be talking for only 30 minutes today. So just get someone to join us. Get someone to join us. I'll be speaking for only 30 minutes today. Get someone to join us. Let someone be part of this and let's do this together. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for being part of this. I appreciate you for sharing. I appreciate you for sharing. I appreciate you for sharing. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very, very much for sharing. If you are on YouTube, you can also go ahead and you can also share. Let someone join us. Let someone join us. Let someone join us right now. We're about to start in the next 3 minutes. In the next 3 minutes, we're going to start. In the next 3 minutes, we are going to start. So let someone be part of this. Let someone join us. Let someone join us right now. In the next 3 minutes, we are going to start. In the next 3 minutes, we are going to start. Let someone be part of this. Let someone join us right now. Get someone to join us right now. Thank you all for being part of this. Thank you all for being part of this. Thank you all for being part of this. Thank you very much for being part of this. We are starting in the next 1 minute. In the next 1 minute. You want to find out what your purpose is. You want to know what your purpose is. Purpose is crucial. I've introduced this subject to you throughout the whole week, explaining to you the importance of knowing what your purpose is. The importance of knowing what your purpose is. The day you recognize what your purpose is, it will change everything about you. It will change everything about you. Purpose gives you a reason to be alive. Purpose gives you a reason to stay up in the storm. Purpose gives you a reason not to be afraid of anything. And today I'm going to talk to you about your purpose. The day you know your purpose, it changes your life. It affects your marriage. It affects your job. It affects your association. That is why it is necessary that you know what your purpose is. And today I'll be talking to you about that. I'll be talking to you about that today. Get a pen and a paper. I'm not going to spend too long with you. And let's do this together. Let's do this together. I told you yesterday, I discovered my purpose about 15 years ago when I discovered my purpose. At the age of 7 years, something happened to me. At the age of 7 years, I had a dream. And that dream has stuck with me for the rest of my life. In fact, I can't even remember the dream I had yesterday or the dream I had a week ago. But I can vividly remember the dream I had when I was 7 years of age. The reason was because the dream I had at that age It's a dream about my purpose in life. It's a dream that concerns my assignment in life. Of course, it took me a long time to understand that dream. It took me a long time to come in terms with that dream. That is why I told you yesterday that many of you know your purpose already, but you do not know that that is your purpose. You are perhaps not even paying attention to it. But this is the reason why you were born. God saw something that must be done on earth, and He created you. He implanted that thing inside of you so that you can be born to fulfill that assignment on earth. You are here on earth for a purpose. You are here for a reason. The manufacturer of your life designed you, created you for a specific reason. You have a purpose to be alive. So today I'm going to help you to rediscover, to ungulf that purpose in your life so that you can begin to live the life that you were born to live. Listen to me very, very carefully. You shall not be judged by the good things that you have done. You shall only be judged by the right thing. You shall only be judged for what you were asked to do and not what you chose to do. You can choose to do a lot of good things on earth, but your manufacturer will not judge you by those good things. Your manufacturer will only judge you by what he created you to do. The assignment that you are here to fulfill is the assignment for which you shall be judged. That is why it is necessary for you to discover what that assignment is. Why was I planted on this earth? For what reason? For what purpose? Who am I? What am I here for? Where am I going? Those questions are essential to who you are. So that is what I'm going to deal with today. And I want you to invite someone, share this live stream, let someone be part of this because I'm going to help you today. If you have just joined us, I want you to pick a pen and a paper. I'm going to give you the first step to finding what your purpose is. The first step to finding what your purpose is. Believe me, it is very easy to discover what your purpose is. It's a very, very easy thing. This is not going to be a very difficult thing where you have to go through months and weeks and years for you to discover what your purpose is. By the time I'm done with you today and tomorrow, we might not even need Friday. By the time I'm done with you today and tomorrow, you would have discovered exactly what your purpose is without question. Without question. And if you have any questions afterwards, I will answer your questions throughout the weekend. But get a pen and a paper ready because I'm going to give you some questions to answer. Through those questions, we will come to discover what your purpose is. It will get us closer to what your purpose is. And by tomorrow, we shall finalize everything and we shall come to a conclusion that this is your purpose. This is your purpose. I've been doing this process. I've been doing this thing for a long time with people. I have mentored several people and I've gone through this process with people over and over and over again for a long time now, for about a decade now. I've been doing this mentorship with people. So if I tell you that by the end of today, you shall be a step closer, I mean what I say. And by tomorrow, you shall know what your purpose is and you can finalize it. I mean it. So get a pen and a paper. Be serious about your life. This is about your purpose. Don't take anything for granted. This is about the reason why you were born, the reason why you are here on earth. Don't take it for granted. It is more important than anything else you will do. So please pay attention very carefully and just listen to what I say and follow on with me. At the age of 7 years, as I told you, I had a dream. And that dream changed whatever I will be in life. I will tell you a little bit of that dream and I'll begin to rewind back and tell you how everything unfolded and how I personally discovered my purpose. And through that process, I will help you also to discover what your purpose is. In that dream, I saw a man. I saw a man come close to me. The man stood next to my bed and the man spoke to me. I didn't hear what the man said. But what he said later when I find out was that he asked me to follow him. But I didn't follow him. I was lying on the bed and the man walked away. And he walked out of the house and he went to the city center, the community center, and stood in the middle of the community center. And then I saw the man asking me to come to him from where he was. So I was in my room, but I could see outside my room. And I see the man standing in that community center in the middle of the town. And he's asking me to come to him. And I was lying on that bed and I was watching the man. I got up and I sat on the bed, but I did not walk to him. I just sat on the bed and the man was saying, "Come to me, come to me." Now, I will explain what this means to you later because I did not understand this with clarity until I grew up. But I'm going to take you through a process so that you can understand how my own purpose unfolded unto me. So forget about this dream. I'll come back to it later on. That was 7 years when I was at the age of 7 years. I grew up. I went to school. Now, when I went to school, my parents gave me a name. The name they gave me is Kafui. So Kafui is my first name. And my parents gave me a middle name. The middle name is Cephas. Now, Cephas and Cephas are not the same name. They do not have the same meaning. They are not related in any way, shape, or form. They are not related. When I was in school, my principal, at the end of our school year, gave me my report card. I believe Ghana or Africa, you would say your terminal report or whatever it is. In the US, it is your report card or your grade card, whatever it is. So my principal gave me, or the headmaster gave me the grade card. And when he gave it unto me, I saw that he had changed my name on the grade card. He changed my name from Cephas, which is Xefa. I can't even spell it anymore, though it was my name. I don't even remember what it is now. Now, so he changed my name from that Cephas to Cephas, and he spelled Cephas on my report card, thinking that when I wrote my name, I spelled my name wrong. So he was trying to correct the name by writing Cephas. I took the report card and I said, no, this is not my name. So I told my parents about it, and my senior brother came to the school with me to tell the principal that next time this name should be changed. This is not my name. It turns out that on the following report card, the principal wrote the same name, Cephas. He did not change the name. On the third report card, he wrote the same name, Cephas, and he did not change the card. We insisted, we pressed that this is not my name, it has to be changed. The principal agreed that he would change the name. But every time, after every semester, after every term, the name remains the same as the principal has written it. For some reason, the principal refused to record my original name, but he kept on writing that name Cephas as though that was the right name. And to cut a long story short, that name Cephas sadly became my name, and Kafui became my middle name. And I'll tell you how this corresponds to a couple of things. So I got to high school and I started recording my name as Cephas and my middle name as Kafui and all kinds of things. The original middle name that my parents gave somehow got lost because, the records and everything have changed it in the system. For some reason, everything was changed in the records. Now, as I grew up and I began to understand certain things, I got to college. While I was in college in the university, I had another dream. In that dream that I had, I saw and I had an experience. And it was like a vision, really. It's not a dream because everything happened in the daytime. It wasn't in the nighttime. And in that revelation, I saw myself lifted up above the heavens. I saw myself in that vision. Whatever it is, you can call it a trance, a vision. It does not matter to me. Just the details is what I want you to hear. In that vision, I was between the earth and the heavens. And I saw myself looking down upon the earth. And I saw that in one instant, I could see every part of the earth. I could see everything in the earth and all kinds of things. And in that time, I saw a person stood next to me. Supposedly an angel stood next to me. And the angel asked me to look. And I looked and I saw a church building. And I saw a lot of young people praying in that church. And I saw myself in the middle of those young people. And I saw that I was the one who was being used to lead that movement of praying people. I saw a lot of people lying on the floor, crying, screaming, calling unto God. I saw people holding onto pillars, crying, begging God for forgiveness. And a lot of things transpired in that revelation. And immediately I saw that there was a shift in that screen of what I was seeing. And I was taken somewhere else. This time it was an open environment, a very big place, bigger than the first experience I had where I saw a lot of young people praying. In this moment too, I saw a lot of people, not just young, old, and young people intermingled, intermixed together. And they were crying to God, they were praying to God, they were calling unto God, and all kinds of things. And I saw three people among those young people. And I heard the angel or the person standing next to me that I should write down the name of these three people. I should write down the names of these three people. So I wrote down the names of these three people in that revelation. I knew those three people. They were friends of mine, but I have not yet made close relationships with them. But those three people were friends of mine, and I knew them very, very well. So what I did was that I recorded their names. And I saw that the screen moved to another screen, and I had another revelation in that same vision. And in that same vision, I saw with the angel who was standing next to me that the whole world was alert and the whole world was in expectation of something to happen. And I was watching, waiting for that expectation. I asked the angel what it was, and the angel said to me that something was about to happen to the world, that everyone in the world is about to fall down and begin to worship God within an instant. And he gave me a time, and he said, when the clock hits this time, everyone in the world will begin to worship, everyone in the world will begin to cry to God. And I thought that was a marvelous thing because I believe that everyone in the world had different time, and there was not a possibility that all of us could be crying to God at the same time. Now, I want you to recognize this, that the period where I had this revelation was not a period that I was very, very close to God. It was not a period that I was very spiritual and so forth and so on. But I will come back and explain that to you very, very soon. But one thing I want you to understand is that I stood with that person, with that angel, and I was watching the clock. And when the clock hit the time that the angel said unto me that it will hit, I saw everyone worshiping at the same time. And the angel said something to me. He said, "This is the last place you shall be before you die." He said, "This is the last place you shall be before you die." And I came out of that revelation. I came out of that trance. Now, let me combine these things to you and explain to you what all these things meant to me over the years when I began to understand what my purpose is. When I was a child, I grew up wanting to be an architect. I grew up understanding my uncle is an architect and all kinds of things. And at a very young age, around 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, I began to draw. I took interest in drawing. I was a very, very good artist at a very young age. If you ask me right now, I'm very, very bad at it. So I took very much interest in what my uncle was doing. I wanted to be an architect. So I started learning these things about architecture. By the age of 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, I was able to draw a perfect drafting of architectural plans. I began to develop more interest into it. At a young age, where other young people would talk about they want to be a doctor, they want to be a pilot, they want to be an engineer, and they were mentioning all these things and stuff. My interest at that very young age was that I wanted to be an architect. At that young age, I knew what it was. At that young age, I was passionate about it. So I pursued it. I went to school in my young years, pursuing this dream. In grade school, pursuing it. By the time I got to middle school, I was still consistent that I want to be an architect. By the time I got to high school, I was still consistent that I want to be an architect and so forth and so on. By the time I got to high school, there was a program in my high school called the Career Paths. And that program was a program that places students in fields or careers that they envision that they want to be part of in the future and all kinds of things. So I took upon myself to join the Career Paths, and I was placed in a contracting firm. And in that engineering contracting firm, I joined a company that helped me to understand exactly what I wanted to do as far as architecture was concerned. That company took me on as an intern. So they started paying me. They started paying me about $2 above the minimum wage. Later on, after they have taken me as an intern, they trained me. I became a paid intern. Then they started paying me about $2 above the minimum wage and all kinds of things like that. A year later, they started paying me about $5 above the minimum wage. So at a very young age, I was making a lot of money. By the time I worked 2 years over, 2 years in that place, I was getting paid like someone who has an associate degree or someone who knows what they were doing. So I was very, very trained in that contracting field. I learned how to use a program called AutoCAD. And that program is what is used to design blueprints for architects and engineers and whatnot. And I became very, very good at it, basically. And when I learned that program, I believe that that program contributed to me getting a pay raise and all kinds of things. But I realized that in that period of my life, I realized that I was not happy with what I was doing. All my life, growing up from a very young age of 6 years, what I wanted to do was architecture. I wanted to be an architect. Finally, I had the opportunity and I was working in a company. I'm talking about at this time when I was working in this contracting firm, I was just a high school student. I was a high school junior, and later when I became a high school senior. And by the time I got to my first year in college, I was still working in the same place. In other words, I'll go to college, I'll come back for summer vacation, and the same company will still employ me and all kinds of things. And when I was going back to college, they'll pay me and they'll give me a bonus in addition to my paycheck. So it was a good job, and I was making very, very good money. But I was just not happy with what I was doing. I was just not excited with what I was doing. I was very, very bored. There were times I would go to the bathroom and I would sleep in the bathroom for about an hour. I would lock the bathroom doors. The bathroom was a very nice place. It has a very big sofa chair over there. I would sleep in it for about an hour, come back, come and sit in my position. And when they ask me, my supervisor will ask me, where have you been? And I would tell her, oh, I had a running stomach or something like that. And then basically I get away with it. Sometimes I go on my lunch break, which was supposed to be in the beginning for 30 minutes. But my supervisor realized that I used to stay out very, very long for an hour before I come back in. So they increased my lunch break to an hour. Then even the hour, sometimes I'll go to lunch. I don't return to like 2 hours later. The reason was because I was bored with the job. I was bored. One day, I was sitting next to the computer that I was using for my design work. And the guy that trained me, a very, very intelligent man, his name was called Crispin. And he looked at me and he has these glasses that he wears. His glasses were very, very thick, very, very thick, those big, huge glasses. And he turned and looked at me and he said, one day you will be just like me wearing these glasses. And when I heard what he said and I looked at him, I knew that definitely this is not what I want to be. My mind concerning this architectural thing began to change. Now, mind you that I applied to colleges and schools, and I applied to every college wanting to go to architectural school and so forth and so on. At that time, when I got to, when I was attending Binghamton, I had received a connection at Princeton University because when I had my interview in high school to go to college, the man that interviewed me fell in love with me so much that when I went to Princeton and there was a technical problem with my applications, and because of that technical problem, they couldn't allow me to enter the school. So the man called his best friend, and his best friend is the person who was in charge of the architectural department in Princeton. That is the graduate school for the architectural department in Princeton. So he called his friend and he said, I've met this young guy. I like him and I want you to meet him. So the man scheduled an appointment with me and the man in Princeton. I went and met him in his office. We spoke and I showed him my portfolio and the things that I've done in my job and all kinds of things. To cut a long story short, he fell in love with me and he said something to me. He said, go to Binghamton for just one semester. After that, call me and I'll get you into Princeton. So all this while I went to Binghamton, it was in my mind that I was returning back to Princeton. I didn't care about Binghamton. I didn't care about staying there. It was in my mind that I was going to return to Princeton. So I went over there with this plan in my mind that I was going to return and do architecture. But as I was going through this process and I recognized that it was getting difficult for me, I was not excited with the architectural process anymore. I was not happy with what I was doing and all kinds of things. My mind began to change about this whole process. And it was at that time too that I began to have some differences in my life, some changes in my life and all kinds of things. What I'm trying to tell you is that I had this plan to be an architect from a very young age, around the age of 6 years, up until the time I was in college. This was my plan. In other words, you can be passionate about something and that thing is not your purpose in life. You can be attracted to something and that thing is not what you were called to do. You see, there is a difference between, forced gravity and true gravity. You see, you can be passionate all your days. You can be gravitated to something. that you love, and you are convinced that this is what you are born to do, this is what you are supposed to do, and it will turn out that this is not the thing that you are supposed to do. Have you ever been in a relationship where you are so much in love, where you guys stay on the phone and you guys talk on the phone for about 3 hours, telling each other, I love you, and all kinds of things, and saying all these sweet words to each other, and you guys telling each other, oh, we're going to be together for the rest of our life, and you're on this phone conversation talking to each other, where you were attracted to the person, you were passionate about the relationship, but guess what? The relationship ended up breaking up. At the end of the day, you did not get married to that person. But at that time, you were convinced that that was the person for you. At that time, you believed that that is the person you were supposed to be. That is how purpose works. That is how the call of your life works. Sometimes you can have a call to something and it feels right. You can have a call to something and it feels good. You feel passionate about it. You may feel passionate about that thing, but that thing may not be your calling in life. That thing may not be your purpose in life. It doesn't matter how passionate you are towards it. It is false gravity. It is false attraction. The same way you are attracted to someone you were in a relationship with, and you couldn't do nothing with, you couldn't do nothing without the person. Sometimes you will confess and say, oh, I can't live without you. I can't be without you, and all kinds of things. You had a conviction inside of you that this is it. This is real. But at the end of the day, you'll find out that it is not what it is supposed to be. That is a false attraction. It is a false gravity. And it happens in the life of many people who are convinced that this career choice is my purpose. This is what I'm called to do. They are passionate about it. They are driven about it. They spend the rest of their life thinking about it. Then they get to a point and they realize this is not it. That is how I felt. From the age of 6 years, I felt that architecture was it for me. I went through my middle school. I went through high school. I came to college believing that this was it. I banked my whole life on this. I went to school paying for a degree, believing that this was it for me, only to come and find out that this is not it for me. How did I find this out? How did I come to this conclusion? And that is what I'm going to do with you for the next 5 minutes, so that you can also know how to conclude on these things in your life at the end of the day. You see, when I had that dream in college, all my life, I never had a prophecy from anyone saying that you are going to be a pastor. And I want you to understand this. I never had any prophecy like that. The only time that a prophecy came like that was when I was in college. And someone told my mother and my brother, our two brothers, the one who is a little bit older than me. I'm the youngest of 4 children. So someone told him, my brother Christian and my mother, that God has a calling on my life to be a pastor and whatnot. And I remember that one of them called, either my mother or my brother told me about it. And I was not interested in that. I was not interested in being a pastor. In fact, my life was so focused. My life was to go to school. My life was to become a scholar. When I was in school, I was majoring in 3 degrees. My focus was just education. And my plan was to run for presidency sometime in the future in Ghana. So my focus was education. I remember when I got to my first year in college, I wrote a book about certain developments in Africa. It was about a 200-page book, and I used that for my sociology thesis at the end of the day. So I want you to understand that this thing about being a pastor was never in my agenda. I never grew up thinking about it. It was never part of me. It was not something it was nothing that I desired to do. So how did I end up in this place? How did this thing become my life work at the end of the day? So my brother called, or my mother called, and said this thing unto me. And I said unto them that no, this is not what I want to do. And all kinds of things. I remember that there was a Christian group on campus. And that Christian group, what is their name? Their name was called Basic. Brothers and sisters in Christ, whatever that is. The name was Basic. And Basic is a Christian organization on campus. It is on a couple of campuses. And it was in Binghamton where I was. And they had a very big program. My brother was somebody who was very spiritual, very, very religious. His life changed very, very early compared to my life, basically. So he was the one who was going to Basic. So he invited me to basic, and I joined basic, for the sake of brothers and, and things, assemblies and things like that. I went with him to be part of this basic thing. But then, this whole spirituality was not part of me. I grew up in church, but my interest was not in that. I grew up in church, but my interest was not this prayer thing. My interest was not this Bible reading things. These things never really attracted me in any way, shape, or form. So one day I went to this gathering, this thing that this Christian group were doing. They had a very big evangelistic crusade on campus, and they invited a guest speaker to come and speak on that campus on that day. I remember that guest speaker was this Caucasian man, and he preached. I don't even remember what his sermon was. It never did concern me. But I remember that I was sitting in this gathering, and at the end of his preaching, he asked the whole congregation to rise in worship. And they started playing a worship music, and everybody was worshiping. People had their hands lifted up and they were worshiping. People had their hands lifted up and they were, crying and praying and all kinds of things. And I was seated down. I was seated down and I was just part of the service, but I was not moved by the service. And when I looked to the left hand of me, I saw a young man who was standing up. The name of that young man was called Gary. And Gary was the most intelligent student in my entire engineering class. Gary was so smart, he was so intelligent that most at times our professor in the engineering class will be teaching. And he will ask the question, Gary, is it right? And if Gary say it is right, it is right. Gary has the final answer. Gary was brilliant. I remember one time we were taking a calculus exam. And mostly in our calculus classes and our physics classes, our questions were normally just 2 questions for about 2 hours. And so that tells you how difficult the exam is if you are given 2 questions for 2 hours. So we were in this exam, we were all taking the exam. And by the time I realized, the professor went around and he began to collect our sheets. It was not yet 2 hours. We were not done with the exam. Nobody was done. The professor went around and he was collecting the sheets. And we asked, why is he collecting the sheets? Because we were not done. And he made a statement and he said, because Gary is not done. And if Gary cannot finish it, the rest of you cannot finish it. So the professor took our exam sheets away from us. So Gary was the measure of the class. Gary was intelligent. Once again, he had this very thick glasses that he wears. This guy was smart. He was intelligent. He was brilliant. So I was in this crusade and everybody was standing up, worshiping, and I was sitting down. I look on my left hand and here is Gary standing up, his hands lifted and tears dripping from Gary's eyes. Now, I thought I was smart, but I thought I was intelligent. I thought I was bright. But yeah, I am. I'm looking at Gary, and I know Gary is completely smarter than I am in class. He's bright than I am in class. And here is Gary with his hands lifted up, crying to God, tears dripping from his eyes. And I said to myself that I don't know what relationship Gary has with God, but whatever he has, it is going well with him. So I'm also going to get up and also worship God. Because if Gary is doing it, why should I be sitting down? So I got up and I also lifted up my hands to worship God. So when I did that, I lifted my hands to worship God. The evangelist said that he wants everyone to come forward so that he can pray for everyone. Everyone went forward. He lay hands and he tells them to go. I'm talking about 500 students in that gathering. Everybody went forward. He lay hands and he asked them to go. He lay hands and he asked them to go. And when I got to that place, the professor said unto me, the evangelist said unto me, he said, young man, wait. And I stood over there. Mind you, this man had laid hands on so many students, he had not asked any one of them to stop. He did not speak to any one of them, but just lay hands on them. When I got there, he asked me to wait, and I stood. He laid hands on me, and he said, young man, you have the heart of David. God wants to use you, but you don't want God to use you. And you have said that you don't want anything to do with it. But I want to tell you that God is pursuing you. God is after you just as he was after the heart of David. I didn't pay attention to what he said because honestly, as I said before, I did not care about this pastoral thing. My mind was education. My mind was just to be what I have designed myself to be in life. So I just walked away unmoved, unconcerned, not knowing it became a big deal among the Christians in basic. They were talking about it and what he said and all kinds of things. So they told my brother. My brother told me about it, and I said, well, I mean, that is what he thinks, but I also have different plans for my life and all kinds of things. I remember that during that period, after this encounter with this evangelist, whatever he was, I began to have some dreams. I began to have some encounters. I have to cut this long story story. I can't go deeper with you on it. But I began to have some dreams. I began to have some encounters. Things that scared me so much that I could not sleep on my off-campus apartment where I was sleeping. I had to move away from that apartment and I had to go to campus. And I remember that I went to campus and I slept in a friend's dorm. At that time, I had a friend on campus. She was very, very nice. And one of her dorm mates did not come to sleep that week in school and all kinds of things. So basically I told her what I was going through, and she said, oh, you can stay over here. I mean, the bed is free. You can stay over here if you can go home to go and sleep, because I rent a place off campus. And she said, listen, if you can go home to sleep, you can sleep over here. And I was scared to go home to sleep because of the things that I saw in my apartment. I was scared. So I decided to take this young girl at the offer. So I slept over there. Mind you, at that time I had a girlfriend or whatever it is. I was just dating somebody. I wasn't a bad person, just so you know, but I was dating. Um, and so what happened was that I slept over there and woke up, went to the dorm shower, took my shower, got ready. I was going to class. Our engineering classes were very, very early, in the morning. So I got up, I was going to class. Then this girl that I was dating, she goes to a different school. She calls me. She's like, hi. I said, hi. And she said, where are you? She just asked the question, where are you? I said, I'm on campus. She said, well, that's quick. How did you get us so fast? And I said, well, I slept over here. And she said, where did you sleep? Women, when they are getting to a place, they began to ask questions, with an agenda. She said, where did you sleep? Like my mother would ask. I said, I slept in a friend's place. She said, which friend? I said, one of my friends on campus. Then I mentioned the friend's name. She said, you slept in her place? I said, yes. I was going through this and she's the only person who had a room, a free bed. So I took it and I slept. She said unto me, you think I'm stupid? You think I'm a fool? And I said, what do you mean? She said, you are cheating with somebody else and you are making me look like I'm a fool. And I'm like, well, do you think I am stupid? If I was sleeping at somebody's place and I was dating the person, would I even tell you where I was sleeping in the first place? I could have said I was sleeping in one of my guys' places. This girl, to cut a long story short, did not believe my story. So I called the girl. I asked the girl to call this girl and tell this girl, like, exactly what happened. She still didn't believe the story. I asked my best friend to call this girl, tell this girl the story. She still didn't believe the story. Anyway, to cut a long story short, that relationship was broken because it didn't go well, as you can see. But during that time, things began to happen in my life. I just want you to understand what was happening. Things began to shake in my life. I went back to my off-campus apartment and I had another dream again. And that's when I had that dream I spoke to you in the beginning of this series. And that was the dream where I said I saw myself and the person I was standing with, the angel I was standing with said unto me that this is the last place you'll be before you die. It was when that dream occurred. I began to rewind and I began to think about my life. And then I began to understand exactly what my purpose is. So I began to remember the dream that I had when I was 7 years, the dream I told you about. That when I was 7 years, I was in bed, somebody woke me up. The person asked me to follow them. I did not follow the person. The person walked to the middle of the town center and the person asked me to come to them. I did not go to them. Now, the person that I saw in that dream was basically Jesus. Now, growing up, we all see pictures of Jesus and all kinds of things. So that was the appearance that occurred to me, though that was a facade and things like that. But then I want you to understand that this was the nature of the dream. That at that young age of 7 years, I was being called into ministry and I did not even know about it. It was only when I was in college, in my later years, in my third year, that all these things began to make sense unto me. Then I remember the story about how my principal tried to change my name from the name that they gave to me to Cephas. And guess what Cephas means? Cephas means what Jesus told Peter when he met Peter. He said, Simon, from today you shall be called Cephas, which means a rock. And upon this rock I will build my church. So, from the dream of the age of 7 years to the principal and my family wrestling with my name, and at the end of the day, the principal won over, and my name became Cephas. Upon this rock I will build my church. So throughout my life, God has been speaking concerning my purpose. He has been speaking concerning my destiny. He has been speaking concerning what I was born to do. I was just not paying attention because I had my own plans. Write this verse of scripture down. Proverbs 19, verse 21. It says over there, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that shall prevail. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that shall prevail. I had my own plans. So all this while, purpose was knocking on my door, but I was not paying attention because I did not care for it, because I did not want that. I didn't want to do that. That was not my focus. But then when I looked through my timeline in life, I looked through from a very young age up until the time I grew up, I could see that purpose was following me. I could see that purpose was knocking at my door. Purpose was telling me what I was born to do, but I was not paying attention to it. To combine that dream at the age of 7 and my name being changed to Cephas, upon this rock I will build my church. And to the place where this man looked at me and this man said that you have been running away from God and God wants to use you. He wants to use you to build his church. And I did not know that. I fought with that. I wrestled with that for a whole year until it made sense unto me. And I began to unfold my life and discover what my purpose is in life. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly specifically what my purpose is, but I have given you a gist of how I came to discover what my purpose is. Now I'm going to help you in conclusion to find out what your purpose is. Get a pen and paper, write these things down. Write these 8 things down. I'm going to continue with these 8 things tomorrow, and I'm going to help you to discover what your purpose is. I want you to answer this question for yourself. Number 1, when you were in pre-K, from kindergarten to the 3rd grade, what did you want to be? What did you want to be? The reason why this is essential is because purpose is not a discovery. Purpose is a rediscovery. It has been following you from the time you were born. From the time you were born, your assignment was mentioned. You were not paying attention. I want to help you take your life back and make you pay attention to where you began with in life. That is what happened to me, and I discovered what my purpose is. So write these things down and let's do this together. Number 1, when you were in pre-K to 3rd grade, what did you want to be? You know, when we're kids, people ask us in school, what do you want to be? Some of us say, I want to be a doctor. I want to be this. You know, what did you want to be? Write the answer down. Number 2, what was it you wanted to be when you were in 4th grade to 6th grade? When you were in 4th grade to 6th grade, what did you want to be at that age? What did you say to yourself you wanted to be? Remember when we were at that age, they asked us to write questions like myself. And they asked you to write questions like, how do I know? Questions like, what do I want to do? What do I want to be? Now, what did you want to be at that age? Write the answer to that question down as well. Number 3, what did you want to be when you were in junior high? When you were in junior high, what did you say to yourself that you wanted to be? Write that down as well. Write that down as well. Write that down as well. Number 4, what did you want to be when you were in high school? Write that down as well. When you were in high school, what did you want to be? Because for some of us, from the time we were in pre-K to the time we were in junior high, what we said we wanted to be changed. Don't worry. It is good, it is bad, whether it changed or not, it does not matter. It is getting us to rediscovering what purpose is in your life. So write that down for me, please. So, number 5. Now, if you went to college, what did you want to be? What was your major in college? What did you want to be? If you did not go to college, how do you went to college? What would you do? What would you want to be? How do you went to college? What would you have majored in? What would you have desired to do in college? Write the answer to that question down. Write the answer to that question down. Now, for those of you who are above college, who are past the age of 30 years, I want you to know that there is a significance to the age of 30. If you have passed that age, uh, you are in a bit of trouble in your life if you don't know what your purpose and your assignment is. Those of you who are below the age of 30, you are okay for now. You can relax, you can rest. At the age of 30, you should have known what exactly you are born to do in life. There is a reason to it. When you look through the history of humankind, you will realize that the age of 30 has been termed the age of decision making, the age of accountability, the age of decision making, the age of accountability. Now, listen very, very carefully. There is a saying in sociology. There is a saying that anyone below the age of 30 is a socialist. Anyone below the age of 30 is a socialist or a communist. And anyone above the age of 30 is a capitalist. Anyone above the age of 30 is a capitalist. Now, when you are below the age of 30, you always have an intention, and your intention is that, oh, I wish there was no poverty in the world. I wish that everyone can have food. When you are below the age of 30, you wish that, nobody lacks. You wish there was no wars in the world. And you begin to make that your mandate in life. Oh, I'm going to change the world. Oh, I'm going to stop world hunger. I'm going to make sure there's no war. You begin to believe in world peace, something of that sort. See, when you are below the age of 30, you think about the whole world. You think about everybody more than yourself. Now, when you grow above the age of 30, you become a capitalist. A capitalist is only concerned about themselves. At that age, life only becomes about you. You begin to look about how much things are not going well for you, how much you are failing. At that point, you don't care about anybody else in this world. You don't care about world hunger because you yourself, you are starving. You yourself, you can't pay your bills, you can't get things going. You don't care about world peace because you yourself, you need peace. So from the age of 30, you become a capitalist. You become more self-centered. That is when you begin to think with your head. Below the age of 30, that is why young women who are marrying, if you marry someone below the age of 30 years, I'm saying this to you. I know it's going to bother most of you, but listen to me very carefully. If you are marrying someone, a guy below the age of 30 years, that guy has still not reached the point of understanding life yet. It is okay to get married, but I want you to understand that you are to expect a major change after the age of 30 in the life of that guy. See, women grow faster than men grow. So basically, a woman at the age of 25 is as matured as a guy at the age of 30. Women mature quicker than guys mature. When a woman is in a relationship with a guy is concerned about sex. A guy is concerned about what they can have right now. The woman is concerned about, are we going to get married? The woman is thinking about her wedding ring. You are 18. What are you thinking about your wedding ring for? But the guy is not thinking about that. The guy is thinking about, let's have fun right now. Let's do this. And guys at that age, they will say anything in this world just to have fun right now. They don't care about any promises that you want them to make. They will make that promises if they can have whatever they need to have right now. So if you are marrying a guy below the age of 30, be cautious. Be very, very cautious, because that guy is about to change after the age of 30 years. Just be mindful of that. So I say this to make you understand my next point to those of you who are above the age of 30 years. That those of you who are above that age, you are going to have a very, very big struggle, with your purpose. Because the moment you discover your purpose, it will affect everything in your life. Things that you have to uproot. And normally uprooting things collapses things. Uprooting things bring other things down. Other things that you have built is going to fall and collapse. Now, write the next thing down. Number 6. What are you currently doing with your life? If you are working at a job, what job is it? What are you currently doing in your life? If you are working a job, what job is this? If you are not working, what are you doing? And whatever you are doing, what is it? Is it the same thing you set out in pre-K to do? The same thing you set out to do in middle school, in high school, in college? What are you doing right now in your life? Write it down, please. Number 7, what have you discerned to be your calling in life? What have you discerned to be your calling in life? What is your calling in life? What have you discerned to be your calling in life? Write that down. If you don't know what calling is, don't worry about it. If you know what calling is, write it down. Now, the calling is the voice that drags you. The calling is the voice that pulls you to your purpose. It is the voice that tells you this is what you are born to do. So when I ask the question, have you discerned the call? It means that have you discerned the voice of purpose? The voice that tells you this is your purpose. Have you heard that voice yet? Write that down. Number 8 and final thing. How did you know that is your calling? How did you know that that is your calling? How did you know that the voice that you heard is the true voice of gravity? Because I told you that there can be false attraction and there can be true attraction. You can be passionate about something and it is not your purpose in life. So a calling is really a passionate attraction towards something, a passionate pulling to something. So you can be passionate about something and it is not your true calling. And you have to understand that in the course of your life. Now, if you have any questions, as I said to you, I will use the last segment of my teachings on Saturday at 9 p.m. to answer all questions. You can write down the questions down Saturday at 9 p.m. Join me again and I'll answer all those questions to your satisfaction. Tomorrow, I am going to revise these answers of your questions with you tomorrow. Tomorrow, as soon as I start, I'm going to go straight into these questions and I'm going to revise the questions with you. And I have the next step after that to share with you. By the time we are done tomorrow, most of you should know exactly what your purpose is. It is not complicated. We will not make it complicated. It is not meant to be complicated. It has been following you all this while. Our job is to descend. Our job is to rediscover. And you have to understand that. And as I told you, purpose is not a discovery. Purpose is a rediscovery. So what you need to do is to rediscover because it has always been around you and I'm going to help you to find it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate the time that we shared. I would like you to please share this with someone. If you know this will be a blessing to someone, share it on your page. Share it on your social media. Impress it on the heart of your friends so that they can also learn and rediscover what they were born to be in life. It will change their life because as I told you, association is contagious. If your friends do not know what their purpose is, in other words, they are in fact affecting you in a way that they are not supposed to be affecting you in life. So share this with people. Let people be part of this. Subscribe, please, to my YouTube account. Visit my YouTube account, Cephas Kafui. Just type in Cephas Kafui in YouTube and please subscribe to it. Thank you very much. I appreciate you and I will see you tomorrow.